Hello, I'm Lucy.
And I'm David.
Welcome to another Cameo. This is very exciting. This is only the second time I've done this. Welcome to another Cameo episode. These very short episodes will be slotted in between the regular ones and will cover people who made a fleeting yet tantalising appearance in other episodes. We don't always have a lot of information about them, so they can't have a full episode of their own, but they are too interesting to abandon completely, and they fill in the gaps and enable us to create as full a picture of the era as we can. And today...
Henry Medwall. Yes. Now,
yeah, everyone's thinking, oh, Henry Medwall, yes, great. We've been looking forward to him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, he does fulfill the promise of having made a fleeting appearance in a previous episode, because he was mentioned in the end of the John Morton episodes. So
yes,
he
was.
Yes. He was one of Morton's notaries and chaplains, but far more importantly, he was, in the words of that eminent scholar, Wikipedia, the first known English vernacular dramatist.
He ought to be better known, oughtn't he, then? Well, he will be, won't he, now?
Yes, after this. This, definitively. Nothing that all these scholars that I've been using the work of know. It's all this.
Yeah, but they haven't got a podcast.
That is true.
Actually, they probably have.
Well, no, they might do. Well, anyway, far be it from me to dispute Professor Wikipedia, but it really does depend on what you mean by drama, or vernacular, or first, or known. He was definitely English, though.
He was English, right, okay.
Yes. In all seriousness, as I talked about last time in medieval and early Tudor drama, the word known is doing a lot of work there. I mean, there's plenty of drama going on in 15th century England, most of it in English, and all of those plays were certainly written by someone. Sometimes they're even identifiable figures we've given titles to, like the York Realist or the Wakefield Master. But it's true, most of them were anonymous. So not very useful for a biographical podcast.
So why isn't he anonymous?
Oh, we'll get to that. It's
okay.
it's a really good part of it. And also, even I say he's the first not anonymous, but we do have the early 15th century monk John Lydgate, who beats him by nearly a century, as not anonymous, but he loses on a technicality that his work was more like pageantry, just a single voice narrating over some mime performances.
It's not much to say at the end of your life. Well, at least I wasn't anonymous.
Yeah, true. I think he had a few other achievements. But, you know, just because his title of first known English vernacular dramatist is a bit shaky, it doesn't take away from how significant it is. And this is the reason why he's known. Henry Medwall's two surviving plays are the first original English plays to be printed.
Oh. Yes. Yeah, that figures. He hit just the sweet spot, didn't he?
Again, that we know of.
Yeah.
You know, these can very easily be lost. But who knows? Tomorrow, suddenly, something by William Cornish might turn up that was like 10 years earlier.
I hope so. I like William Cornish.
But it's the first step in the growing prestige of drama that will build through the early modern period until the Elizabethan playhouses and the days of Shakespeare and Company. So, more on the plays later, but first, the life of Henry Medwall. So, Medwall was born in Southwark on or around the 8th of September, 1461.
That's strangely specific for an around.
Yes. Yes. Well, on or around 8th December 1461 or 1462.
Right. So, well, that's I've come across that before. It's not that they're a year apart, or that they might have written it wrong in the parish. Not they would have written it in the parish things at that point.
No.
But there's a difference in actual dating, isn't there? I can't remember the exact.
There is, but it wouldn't apply in September. It's because the year used to start on Lady Day, which was in March. So anything in January, February or March, it can get very confusing.
Right, yes.
So I'll come to why we have this confusion in a moment, but it is typical of his life. I mean, for a middle-class lawyer, we actually know rather more about his life than you would expect. But a lot of it had to be pieced together from passing mentions in other documents. So like you just said, we don't have a baptismal record because it wouldn't be till Thomas Cromwell mandated that all parishes had to keep them that we have it. So we can't be certain of his parents, but fortunately, Medwall is not a very common name in 15th century Southwark. So there was a certain John Medwall, a respectable parish clerk and organist who was just the right age to be his father. So he was deeply involved in his local church, St. Margaret's, Southwark, and in fact he was hired soon after the church bought a pair of fancy new organs.
A pair of organs?
A pair of organs, yes. It's go big or go home.
Yes.
Were
they trying for stereo?
That's brilliant. Yeah, maybe, I know they were into polyphony, but I didn't think they'd gone quite that far.
Wow, that's pushing it. Blimey.
Well, music seems to have been a passion of his. I mean, we know that St. Margaret's bought a valuable prick book from him, worth 9 shillings. No sniggering at the back, that's a book of sheet music.
Yep.
So he must have been very into the new choral polyphony, and also, if he had a 9-shilling book, probably quite well off. Because he was a parish clerk, he'd have needed to be able to assist at services, he'd have to be able to read, write, keep the accounts, and train the singers. He also arranged banners for the church, which suggests he was involved in the lucrative cloth trade. And before he died in 1491, he rose to be a church warden and a church evaluator. So that meant he inventoried the church's property and land. So, very well respected, very important in Southwark.
Yeah, and to live in Southwark and be a decent, well-respected person must be quite tricky at that time.
Yes.
It had different connotations then.
Oh, it did. We also know that St. Margaret's was one of the churches that put on a lot of plays, especially in the 1450s, and parish clerks often acted in those. Though, sadly, by the 1460s, when young Henry was born, they'd run out of budget. So he may have
because they bought 2 organs.
Yes. Wildly overinvested in the 1450s. Finally, we know that in 1486, a John Medwall petitioned the Bishop of Ely, one John Morton, to help him retrieve money from the Abbot of Bermondsey after John Medwall had repaired some local buildings under the abbot's purview at considerable personal expense, over £30. And one of the co-signatories was Henry Medwall.
Oh.
And he would have been old enough to do that at that point. So this was a man who was educated, artistic, respectable, and well off enough to have both his sons educated too. Oh yeah, both his sons. Henry Medwall had an older brother, confusingly, also called John.
All right, of course.
Yes.
Do you think they just thought, whatever, if ever they couldn't think of a name, on sort of in an instant, they just say, it's got to be John. It's got to be John.
Yeah, John. At least he was naming him after himself. I mean, that was a fairly standard thing to do.
Yes. Yeah, and there was only one of them.
Yeah. The point is, as Alan H. Nelson and Sally Beth MacLean, who are the preeminent Medwall biographers who found and collected most of Medwall's records, and this is essentially what saved me from having to somehow find my way to the National Archives. And they admit very honestly in one of their articles, quote, "If a father were to be invented for the John and Henry Medwall discovered in the Public Records Office and the King's College Archives and the plays attributed to Henry Medwall, he would be just such a man as appears in the church records of St. Margaret's, Southwark."
Well, that's handy.
So it's like, we don't know, but it's pretty likely.
But if we were to choose one, he's the one we'd choose.
He's got the right background, he's got the right circumstances. And they've also found a woman in the parish clerk's register called Emma Medwall, who would also be just the right age to be his mother.
We don't come across many Emmas. I mean, it was earlier, plenty of Emmas in Saxon times, and then they stopped.
And later on, actually, there's a nun called Emma Medwall, sort of nearish, who is about the right age to be his sister. And again, that would make sense, the oldest daughter named after the mother, the oldest son named after the father.
Yeah.
Anyway, whoever his parents were, Medwall grew up in Southwark, and as you say, although he's better off than many, this wouldn't have shielded him from seeing the interesting and characterful aspects of London's grimier and laxer twin city.
Right, yeah, character building. It's all character building.
Well, judging by his later work, he was taking notes.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know it was going to be that sort of episode.
When he was 12-ish,
Right.
he applied to Eton, and this is where we get his birthday from. This is the first record we have of him, because they have a record of his application that in 1474 he was 12 on the festival of the Nativity of the Virgin, which was the 8th of September.
Right.
Now, the trouble is that the phrasing, that means he was 12, that was the nearest significant festival, so it may not have been that exact day, but it was close enough.
Right, they're not just saying he was 12 on this particular day. It's not his birthday. He just happened to have been 12 on this day, and plenty of other days.
Yeah, but if he'd been 12 nearer to another festival, they would have mentioned that one. So it must be around there. And also, the way they phrase it doesn't make it clear whether they meant he's going to be 12 on this year's one, or he was 12 on last year's one.
Right, okay.
Hence the 40-61-62 thing. So, again, better than we have for a lot of people. Anyway, they didn't even let him in till the following year.
Well, they let him in, though.
They did let him in. And we shouldn't think of Eton College the way it is today. I mean, obviously now it's one of England's poshest schools, known for churning out prime ministers.
Yeah.
Well, I should say the only people I've ever personally met who went to Eton were lovely.
Yes, I've come across some really nice people.
This was a public school back when that really meant for the public, because obviously anyone genuinely posh would have a privately educated at home. So it was founded by Henry VI in one of the few occasions when he seemed to be actually passionate about something.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
He would have been so happy as a monk.
He would. Yes, or just running the school. He'd have been. Yes. Oh.
He'd have been everyone's favourite headmaster.
Yes, he would, because he'd let them get away with it with so much.
Pretty much. And it was designed to help educate bright but poorer boys. They could go on to study at King's College, Cambridge, which is another of Henry VI's foundations. And, essentially to revitalise the priesthood. It was very much designed for theology students. It was starved of funds when Edward IV came to the throne, but competition was still fierce. I mean, there were only 70 scholars in the whole school. And especially since priority was given to boys from the lands owned by Eton, and then to those from Buckinghamshire or Cambridgeshire, and only then would they consider people from the realm of England generally.
Why Buckinghamshire and Cambridgeshire? I mean, they're nowhere near each other.
Is
that just land-owned?
Yeah, land-owned. And I think that, the Cambridgeshire thing certainly makes sense because it was like, you go straight... It's a feeder school for King's Cambridge. You're really... Most people who went to Eton, if they were going to go to university at all, went to King's Cambridge. Yeah. And the realm of England generally, of course, included Southwark. And they only took on 8 or 9 boys a year, though they did get special consideration if they could sing well. Because, they wanted to have a nice choir. And to be fair, they probably could sing for a while because of different diet, boys' voices broke rather later in that period than they do now. So you could have an unbroken voice till 16, 17, which makes a lot of, those Shakespeare plots where a woman disguises herself as a young man more plausible.
Yeah,
once you realise that.
Yes. And the fact that she was a young man as well.
Well, yes, there is also that. So considering all of that, it's impressive that both Henry and his elder brother John went to Eton. But I can't help but wonder if that might have been their father pushing them a bit. I mean, not just because of the singing, which he taught, and the education, but it was a chance to mix with the sons of the up-and-coming new men. Almost immediately, Eton had become a place where rising middle-class people sent their children. I know it's supposed to be for poor boys, but poor is a relative term. Strictly speaking, the entry criteria only said that the boys themselves couldn't have much money. Their parents could be loaded.
Right. Well, presumably they needed the parents to be loaded because where are they getting their funds?
Yeah, you did. Well, the scholars, they are still getting... They still have royal commissions. They're still getting funds from land. So the scholars didn't have to pay for their keep. But a bit later on, you would get... A bit after Medwall's period, you got people staying in local houses and paying for it, and that became the main thing after a while. But, and you did also have to be able to read and write, and one source I found said that the boys had to be familiar with the works of the Latin grammarian Aelius Donatus before they applied, so we're not talking about peasantry here.
No, I've never heard of him.
Apparently quite a useful grammar for starting Latin.
Right, yeah.
And there might have been a political angle as well, because I haven't seen anyone else pick up on this, but that's just a thought I'd had. I mean, John Medwall named his oldest son after himself. Okay, fair enough. But he named his younger son Henry, and he was born in 1461 or 1462, just after Henry VI's deposition.
Oh, right. Gosh, that was a bit of a risk, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's right next to London. It suggests a level of allegiance to the former king and his projects, and he sends both his sons to Eton. I think there's a definite sense of connection there.
Mind you, Edward hasn't set up any schools at this point, at all.
True.
Come to think of, but yes.
Yes. So at Eton, the curriculum was entirely Latin at this point. Not even any Greek yet. This is learning it, writing it, repeating it for years. Very firm grounding, but maybe a little bit tedious. And then in 1480, he went on to study at King's College, Cambridge, as he said. And this is still mainly designed to produce priests and theologians, though a few people are studying law and medicine. But education was changing. Humanist thoughts coming in from Europe, and with Caxton's new printing press running, exciting new ideas were spreading. Over his education, he would have studied theology, philosophy, art, and then lots of classical authors, Ovid, Terence. Art? Yes.
Right. Okay.
Quite specifically art. It's because they're really starting to bring in the rounded humanist education. I mean, I think we're not quite at the point where Erasmus has got them to go full humanist, but they're starting to notice, Europe's really ahead of us again.
Yes. Yeah, it takes a long time for things to manage to cross that channel, isn't it?
Yeah. And he had lots of the classical authors, so Ovid, Terence, Cicero, Aesop, Aristotle, in translation, but into Latin.
I'm always very surprised they learn Ovid, because it's quite racy for a boys' school.
It is. But Ovid's, so standard. He's one of the first people who gets taught, and yeah, he's going to turn up in the plays. In particular, part of the study of classical texts involves study of dialogues and ancient drama. A lot of old philosophy is done dialogue style.
Yeah, which is cheating, I think, because you can put anything in your opponent's mouth and make them look like a complete idiot, can't you?
That is true. Again, we're coming to that.
Okay.
And King's College also was well known for having a lot of minstrels, singers, and plays, both performed by visiting players and by the fellows themselves. So in 1482, when he'd been there a couple of years, we know that there was a King's Fellow that was 4 years Medwall's senior, called John Golding, and he arranged the Christmas play. And we have all the payments for it, and we don't actually know how involved Medwall was, but the point is, having had grown up in all these places, he would have seen a lot of different kinds of drama, which is really helpful. And then, and we can date this to that day, on the 2nd of June 1483, Medwall suddenly leaves King's College. He withdrew partway through a term. He didn't take his degree. Doesn't seem to have left Cambridge.
Does his dad die or anything?
No, not till 1491. But yeah, he didn't seem to have left Cambridge, as he continued to have dined at his old college.
Oh.
But in fact, a dining record that August gives us the clue, because on August the 15th, he dined with the servants of two prominent men, Oliver King, Edward IV's secretary, and the servants of John Morton, Bishop of Ely.
Right.
Now, if Medwall was already being patronised by one of these two, and considering his future employment, likely Morton, then June 1483 was a time to keep a low profile.
Yes. You have to keep your eyes on the dates, don't you?
Yes. Because 11 days after Medwall left the college, Morton was arrested by the future Richard III.
Right.
And there was all these rumours that he was dead. At one point, before we found a more recent document, it was thought that he actually left on the day Morton was arrested. That we found it a little bit earlier, but clearly, this is a dangerous moment.
It was on the cards.
Yeah. And by the time Medwall's creeping back in to dine with Morton's servants in August, Morton is already imprisoned by the Duke of Buckingham, gradually persuading him to rebel.
Yes. I would really love to know what went on there. Well, he must have had the gift of the gab, old Morton.
Well, I was reading recently something else. I was reading Thomas More's History of Richard III, which of course is basically John Morton's History of Richard III, because that's where he would have got it all from.
Yeah.
And it ends with a conversation between Morton and Buckingham as Morton starts to persuade him, and then it stops.
Yeah, it stops right in. You think, oh, come on, keep going.
Medwall seems to have kept his head down during Richard III's reign. We know from this wonderful resource of the dining records means we know he stayed in Cambridge till 1485. And then he probably moves back to London or Southwark once Henry VII comes to the throne, because he's witnessing his father's complaint about the Abbot of Bermondsey. By 1491, King's College gives him a master's degree in civil law. So he must have been doing something involved with the law.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes. It wasn't all footlights and choir practice, was it?
Well, because we know he wasn't at the college because of other records, we think that it was a degree that was given in recognition of, effectively, he'd done the equivalent study in the practical world of law.
Or maybe it was a recognition of why he had to stop.
Yes.
I mean, if you were pro Richard, he'd have kept going. But
yeah.
So
they're kind of, okay, fine, you really do know about the law. We'll grant you this now. Honestly, some of his practice in the law in this period might have been chasing around after his brother. So his older brother, John Medwall Jr., is 5 years older than Henry, and he seems to have been a little bit wild. Most of the records we have of him getting into debts. He arrested for trying to settle a dispute with, quote, force and arms.
Okay, yeah.
And whilst Henry was reciting Latin at Eton, brother John was being taken to court for, quote, ravishing the daughter of a business associate.
Oh dear.
Now, this might not be as horrible as it sounds, because there is an interpretation that this may have been a consensual relationship that the father didn't approve of. Which was not uncommon, because he essentially...
So it's the father's terms, not...
Yeah.
Right.
You've stolen my daughter from me. Because, he promised to marry the girl, so, again, that's either even more horrible for her, or maybe what they were hoping for in the first place. And as we have no evidence either way, I'm going to go for the nicer interpretation.
Yeah. But Henry must have seemed like... a godsend to his dad, mustn't he? If he's been through all this with his older brother, it must be thinking, why can't you be more like Henry?
Yes. After this, John Medwall Jr. is sent over the sea.
Oh, is he?
That's the quote.
Yes, they're just waiting for to have colonies to send him to. Well, I wonder if he was sent over the sea, because I was telling you, I just wasted an afternoon learning about sanctuary and exile, sanctuary and exile, only to discover that by Henry's reign, the exile bit had pretty much fizzled out. So maybe if he'd sought sanctuary, that's what you do. You say, yes, I did it. I don't want to go to prison, please. And they'd say, okay, you have to walk to Dover and get the hell out of here. So maybe it was still going a bit, I know, but it just wasn't going as much as I hoped it was when I researched the episode. Yeah.
It may not have been an official exile so much as he was trying to stay out of his father-in-law's way for a bit.
Right. Yes.
Well, he must have come back to England at some point, because in 1487, John Morton, you see all these links coming in, commissioned him as a summoner.
Huh?
So, yeah, that's an official for the church courts who summon people to appear at their hearings.
Right, so they issued subpoenas to people.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, he was qualified. They make a point about the fact that he's literate. I mean, he had been at Eton after all.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't... I'm not going to say that. Yeah.
Considering that the reputation for summoners was that they were all really corrupt and were just in it for the bribes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to Chaucer now, yes.
Yeah, that hadn't
changed much, yeah.
Yeah, he probably, again, provided plenty of material for his brother's pen. And also, the only reason to bring this up is it also shows that his family's contacts with Archbishop Morton were still strong. I mean, they probably started with the father. You know, a lot of Morton's diocese areas were right next to where John Morton was. Organists would regularly go into other areas because a trained organist, especially one who knew how to do the new polyphony, was quite rare.
Especially one that could play two organs at once, yes.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Then, in 1489... Henry Medwall appears notarizing a renewed peace treaty between England and Portugal at Windsor Castle, in the presence of Oliver King, John Morton, and Henry VII.
Did we need a peace treaty? This is a renewed one. Yeah, renewing our ancient links, I presume, rather than we weren't at war with Portugal or anything. I haven't come across that. I think I'd have come across it after 5 years in Henry VII's reign.
I suspect this was just one of those, yes, but you're still our ally, aren't you? Yes. We can't be sure about anyone else, but you're still... We're not sure if he was on Morton's staff yet, but he soon was. So by 10th of April 1490, he was ordained an acolyte, and by that July, he was witnessing Morton's documents. So this role as a notary, very much kind of putting an official seal on all of these things. In fact, we don't have a picture of him, but we do have his... knot, which is his very elaborate initials, sort of beautiful arrangement, which is just a nice kind of way of putting his mark on things. In fact, the first letter he definitely notarized for Morton was to the Abbot of St. Albans, detailing some complaints about the monks there, including that they'd slept with a woman called Eleanor Gemin, and that the abbot had... Yes, all of them. God. Presumably only some of them. And that the abbot had made her the head of a convent despite the fact that she had a husband. So yes, Ali, we have reached sex with nuns. So, at least on this occasion, it seems to have been consensual.
Sex with a nun.
Sex with a nun, just the one. Well, this doesn't seem to have put him off the ecclesiastical life, or it encouraged him. And by 1491, when he was at most 30, he was a priest, a holder of a master's degree from Cambridge University, and notary and chaplain to one of the most powerful men in the realm. So, I mean, that was, sadly, 1491 was the year his father died. But I hope he lived long enough to see how well his younger son was doing.
Yes, compared to the other one.
Yes, quite. It is very noticeable that if we're right about the family and all of them, then you have the older one, John, and then the next two become a priest and a nun, respectively. It's just...
Yeah, maybe his dad was almost locking them into the decent, honest life, but obviously we know from what happens in St Albans that that's not necessarily the case.
Not always the case. So, 1490s. This was the peak of Morton's power and probably Medwall's as well. I mean, in 1492, he's given the living of Bellingham in Calais. Like so many of these people, there's no evidence he ever actually went there.
Well, it's dangerous crossing that water.
Yes. Well, perhaps his brother checked up on it when he was over the seas, because there is a record of a John Medwall in Calais 30 years later, though that might be John Jr.'s son, because these people really aren't imaginative with their names.
No.
Henry does have a couple of legal records concerning his debts, but this is amazing. They are records indicating he satisfactorily paid them off.
Oh, okay. It's not what we're used to.
No. Well, because there was no such thing as a central bank, so a lot of people would just borrow money when they needed it. For this one, we used to be a cloth merchant, so he might have just been getting himself some new clothes. And
we know from Margaret Paston that she borrowed from a friend, and that seemed to be what you do.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, if you can't pay back, then that's your friendship gone.
Yeah. Well, people would will their debts to each other in their wills. I mean, it was just sort of, oh, here we go. In fact, at one point, this shows how trusted he must have been, or at least how much John Morton trusted him. At one point, he and a friend are allowed to borrow 10 marks from the royal household treasury.
What, the one under the bed?
Yes, he must have opened up the chest under the bed.
Wow. I wonder if Henry knew about that.
Yes. Morton just slipping it to him. Don't tell Henry.
Yes.
Or Empson and Dudley.
Yes.
We don't have all of the documents he notarized, but we do know he was required to endorse and sign quite a few writs of excommunication.
Oh.
Yeah. Including one for a certain John Golding, the fellow who'd organised the Christmas play at his university a decade earlier.
Oh. It is a ludicrously small world at this time, isn't it?
Well, that's either a horrible coincidence or the worst one-star review I've ever seen. I hated that play so much I'm condemning you to hell for all eternity.
It's not quite as bad as Henry VIII, is it? Because out of the four of his friends that he grew up with, he actually executed 3 of them. So, actually, well, I don't know. Maybe excommunication's worse than execution, isn't it? I mean, it should be.
Yeah, depends on your perspective.
Yeah.
Either that or Medwall, like, because obviously he was, Golding was 4 years older, so maybe he was like the head of Footlights. And Medwall, wrote a sketch that didn't get accepted. Yeah. And he went, just you wait.
Yes, I'm biding my time.
Of course, amongst all these other things, and being Morton's chaplain and his notary, he wrote plays for Morton's household, which is why we're talking about him. Yep. I mean, he probably wrote lots of interludes for Winter's Day at Lambeth Palace. I mean, we only have 2, but unless he was an inhuman genius, he couldn't have written at this level if these were the only 2 he ever attempted.
There might have been quite a few in his bottom drawer, maybe.
Didn't get preserved. He clearly put care into them, but most likely they were intended for maybe 1 performance, and then preservation in manuscript for a few choice friends of Morton. So we're lucky that the 2 we have are, probably by pure coincidence, a perfect representation of the 1490s, poised between medieval and early modern, because one is a medieval play, with clever humanist touches, but clearly part of the morality tradition. And the other is subversive, secular, and surprisingly modern. Much more kind of moving in the Shakespeare era direction.
What, with jokes we don't get anymore and that sort of thing?
To be fair, there are some jokes there are some jokes we definitely get, even if we don't want to.
Right, okay.
Okay, so at Lambeth Palace, you'd have your gathering of notables and their servants in the hall. We said last time that the most important, like Morton, are on a dais. Others sit at long tables, and the servants, including us, wait.
Yes.
If you listen to the last episode if you want to know what that means. Are waiting behind in the doorway, and a space is near the fire, and the interlude is about to begin. Nature. So, okay, Nature isn't a very inspiring title. but to be fair, it's the title chosen for the printed version, and that was well after Medwall's death. He may have never given it a title at all. It might have just been play I wrote for this date.
Yeah, the play what I wrote, yes.
Yeah. So, Nature's a morality play in the genre of Mankind, Everyman, The Castle of Perseverance, where a symbolic figure of humanity is shown interacting with other characters representing virtues and vices. This kind of internalized conflict represented as people, I didn't mention this last time, it's sometimes called a psychomachia, a soul war, which is a rather good name. And Medwall probably wrote this one for an audience he knew would be highly educated both in theology and the classics. It's got a lot of references, but that didn't mean he couldn't have a little bit of fun with it.
When you need something for the servants, it's a bit like pantomimes. You have the bit more sophisticated jokes for mum and dad, and the "He's behind you" bit for the kids.
Yeah,
You've got to have the bit for the servants hovering around the doorway.
Well, but yeah, but we know. One of the people who would have been here at the time was Thomas More. And we know from that he had yes, he might have been very sophisticated, but he was also perfectly happy to have a very broad sense of humour.
Was he? I don't see him like that. Oh, right.
So
I think because in my mind's eye he is Anton Lesser now. I don't see him as a raucous, bawdy type.
it was a very strange experience watching Wolf Hall and then A Man for All Seasons. Because you get a very different take on him. So the play opens with the personification of nature, who comes in. She introduces herself to the figure of man, a person called Man, and also to the audience. The Almighty God that made each creature as well in heaven as other place earthly, by his wise ordinance hath purveyed me, nature, to be as minister unto him immediately, for the reason that I should perpetually his creatures in such degree maintain, as it hath pleased his grace for them to ordain. Also I have ordained the goddess Diana, lady of the sea and every fresh fountain, which commonly decreeth, which when she giveth wane, and waxeth abundant when she creaseth again, of ebb and flood as she is cause certain, and reigneth as princes in every isle and town, though with the sea is compassed every one.
We got a bit of Diana in there. We got some classics.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It is this very humanist blending of Christian and classical concepts. So this is definitely nature, who's a goddess, but she's under a Christian god, and then she claims to command the goddess Diana, the moon, to raise and lower the tides.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's sort of the opening. I'm not going to read the whole play, but it's probably hard to hear when I'm just reading it, but this is in a very elegant rhyme royal structure. This is a 7-line form invented by Chaucer. It's usually used in poetry. And so Medwall is kind of showing off all his very dignified and noble characters speak this way. It's the thing about the verse drama this period is that the verse is designed almost like we'd use background music in modern films to kind of give a sense of what the characters are like. And of course, this is a world where people are so used, although they're all literate in this room mostly, they're so used to listening. They pick up on this a lot more than a modern audience would.
We've gone full circle, really, haven't we? Because now lots of people have become used to listening again with the radio and podcast and things. Yeah,
which is nice. Later in her opening speech, she says that those who seek to know her better should consult Aristotle.
Aristotle was never out of fashion, was he? He was always in there. It was just the other ones that came along, and everyone said, "Oh, who is this Plato person of which you speak?" But Aristotle, I think, was always there, and you weren't really allowed to disagree with him, were you? It's no.
Yes, well, she calls him her philosopher elect, so she's got a very clear idea.
Yeah.
And then, perhaps even more surprisingly, and you mentioned this earlier, if man wishes to know about his creation, she points him not to the Bible, but to Ovid's Metamorphoses.
They were so muddled, weren't they? With Alexander saying he was descended from Isis, and you think, just sort yourselves out.
To be fair, I went back and read the description of the creation of man in the Metamorphoses, and actually it is very similar to the Christian one. It features an unnamed creator god creating the world out of chaos. And then when it comes to humanity, it claims either a divine maker seeded humanity from heaven, or the earth still contains something heavenly in it, so that Prometheus, who in the classical tradition some versions of the classical tradition puts men together, could mould them into humanity. So it's like, oh no, we can have Prometheus because God also put something divine into the earth which you wouldn't have been able to do it either. So it's this idea of everything comes together and it doesn't matter.
Yes, it's all fine. Everything's fine. Don't question it. It's fine.
Yes. It's a podcast I once listened to that used to say about things like this, that their standard phrase was, lol, it's not pagan, it's fine.
Yes. Yeah, but so many myths start with chaos, don't they? And then people are created from various things, either made of mud or being sewn from dragon's teeth or various other things. But it starts with the chaos.
There's always that sense of the well, I guess I was about to say there always is. I know that in some, I think you can tell something about a society whether it thinks things are getting better or things are getting worse.
Right. Is there any that make think they're getting better?
I think Christianity is supposed to believe that. I'm not sure it always does. But yeah, fair point. So nature now speaks to man, who is still young and being looked after by his nursemaid, who's called Innocence. And nature gives man two counsellors, reason and sensuality.
Okay, right.
So nature tells man to privilege reason's counsel, he'll be enslaved by his passions, but sensuality immediately objects.
What's sensuality doing there, then?
Well,
that one's only been put there so that you can be told not to take any notice of them.
I think as sensuality pretty much points out, it says, "You call him lord of all beasts living, and nothing worthy as far as I can see. For if there be in him no manner of feeling, no lively quickness, what lord is he? A lord made of clouts or carved out of a tree, as fareth as an image grained out of stone, but nothing else can do but stand alone."
So you've got to have your cerebral bit, but you've got to be able to let go from time to time.
Well, exactly. And nature does admit this, although also saying reason is more important. And this is actually a really important thing, because this isn't like earlier morality plays. Earlier morality plays, you'd had your good angel and your bad angel. And, they'd be telling them different things, the angel and devil on the shoulder. But this concept, this is drawn straight from Aristotle's concept of the three-part soul. So Aristotle thought that all living things have a vegetative soul, like innocence, which is just, are they alive? Can they feed themselves? Yeah. Then animals have their passions and drives, sensuality. But only humans have reason and an immortal soul. Man has to listen to reason and everything will be fine. But that wouldn't make much of a play.
So they're sort of layered. You've got your reason layered over the top of the others.
Absolutely. And it's a very sort of Tudor way of doing it, because a lot of the argument between reason and sensuality is kind of precedence. Like, who should be the most important servant to mankind? So nature leaves the stage, and reason and sensuality bicker. But unfortunately, man has to travel to the court of the world, who takes him in, dresses him as a king, and teaching him that someone so important needs proper servants. So innocence and reason are sent packing, and the world introduces worldly affection as man's guide.
Hang on, innocence and reason are sent packing.
Yeah, innocence and reason are sent packing. Sensuality sticks around.
Yeah, I was just sort of so much assuming it was going to be the other two. It didn't tweak for a second.
No, because the world is one of the enemies. Like, the world is like, oh no, you don't need that. You just need worldly affection. You need, things that you like in the world. In morality plays, the three enemies are always the world, the flesh, and the devil. So worldly affection has a whole host of people he wants man to employ. The first is pride, and the other deadly sins are not far behind.
Right.
So these are all man's servants, and Medwall has a lot of fun with these vices, actually. Because, they are supposed to be the deadly sins, but they also fill in the role of kind of figures that Medwall and Morton's circle would have been very familiar with. So pride is pride, but he's also a preening nobleman.
Oh, right. Yes.
The first time he comes in, he's saying, "Who dwelleth here? Will no man speak? Is there no fool? Or will he speak now by the bell? It were amiss to break some of these knaves' brows. A gentleman comes in at the doors, and all his days have worn gilt spurs, and none of these knaves, nor cutted whores, bids him welcome to house. Would you not how great a lord I am? Have noble progeny I came, my father a knight, my mother called madame, that mine ancestors' great estates. And now, the livelihood me to fall that bear both these deaths natural, I am spoken of more than all, hence to Paris's gates."
I'm getting a bit of Edmund de la Pole here.
You are not the only person to think that. There is a definite Edmund de la Pole vibe. There's a preening nobleman in the other play as well, and there's definitely stuff going on. So pride is aiming at dignity, and again, it's probably hard to hear just verbally, but it's a different rhyme scheme now, and it's tail rhymes. It's much more kind of low.
Right, so even though he's saying that I'm better than all of you, his words are giving him away.
Exactly.
Right.
But when Pride meets Man, however, he makes sure to call himself not Pride, he introduces himself as Worship. And gullible Man says, "Oh, it was my destiny to come to worship, or I die." So, a little bit of double meaning here. Off they go to the pub.
I can see Man being played by a young Michael Palin.
Yes. To make the plot works, that the sort of mankind figures in these plays always have to be incredibly gullible.
Yes.
Just wide-eyed. So off they go to the pub, where Man is introduced to women. That's off stage, but Sensuality comes back on stage to report that Man has fought with Reason because he's besotted by a young woman called Marjorie, and he's now keeping company with his other new friends, who include Manhood,
Right.
Gluttony, who calls himself Good Fellowship, and Sloth, or Ease, and there are a few others. I mean, all of them are doing this, and it's a good way of kind of showing how the sins can hide behind things. For a brief while, Reason manages to come back when Man encounters someone called Shamefacedness and goes back to Reason. Honestly, this part sounds like a hangover. Because...
Never, ever again.
Yes, exactly. Because then they have an interval, probably quite long to have a meal.
Yet another meal.
But Man is quickly lured back into sin by Sensuality.
Oh, Sensuality's back.
Yeah, Sensuality's back. In particular, he's managed to win because he claims that Man's favourite mistress, Marjorie, has joined a convent. Though, on further questioning, it is a pretty odd kind of convent.
I'm getting St Albans now.
Yes. It might have been.
Do you think when Sensuality comes back, do you think the audience cheer, or do you think they all boo?
I think it might be the kind of boo you get at a pantomime where everyone's enjoying it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the fun stuff. She says, she hath entered into a religious place at the Greenfriars hereby. So,
right, not Blackfriars, not Greyfriars.
Yes. "Oh," says Man, "is it a house of straight religion?" And he says, "Yes, as any that was begun since the world stood. And are they closed nuns? Are they in an enclosed order?" And the Sensuality says, "Close? Oh, no, that guys were not good. No, all is open that they do there."
Right, so we're...
Yes.
Yeah, growing up in Southwark.
Yeah. Remembering that Medwall grew up near the Winchester stews.
Yes.
Man is immediately back in the company of the sins and now plans to fight Reason because he's now been convinced that his reason was holding him captive. Unfortunately for Man, turns out that the deadly sins aren't very reliable allies.
No, they're not.
No, funnily enough, gluttony, sloth and lust are pretty useless. Wrath seems to vary between sort of cowardly bragging and wild psychopathy. And envy, annoyed that Pride is getting all the attention, persuades Pride that the battle is already over. At which Pride, having spent all his inheritance on his fancy outfit and private army, is now ruined.
Ah, well, now we're getting the Earl of Kent. Was he Kent?
Yeah.
Richard Grey.
Yeah.
Yes. Selling off his estates for a horse and a bit of cloth. I wonder if people would have seen all these characters and thought and known exactly who they were talking about in court, so it would be a satire.
Oh, I think they probably would. I think next season we're going to do John Skelton, who quite soon after this wrote a morality play called Magnificence, which was an even more blatant satire on Henry VIII's court. So it's I think this is a fairly standard thing. And also, of course, the players would have been, they had a special dispensation to against the sumptuary laws that they could wear appropriate outfits for their character, which meant that they could very easily have worn just the right colours and badges. Depending on who was there. Just enough deniability.
It must have been so much more funny for them knowing, because you get a bit like Gilbert and Sullivan. Gilbert and Sullivan leaves me completely cold. I can't get on with it. But if I knew more about the satire, the people they were going for, and it was I knew these people almost personally, I think I'd probably find it a lot more in it than I do.
There's a bit in which one is it? In The Mikado, where the Mikado has one of his big punchlines is talking about parliamentary trains, which now I know the history of that, but I'm going, oh no, that is actually quite funny. But it's just a great big pulled out, parliamentary trains thing, and everyone's supposed to be roaring with laughter.
Yeah, I think unless you're going to update the words of it, it falls flat sometimes. Yeah. I don't know these people.
But again, this play, for a morality, it's quite cynical, because in the end, it isn't so much that man abandons his sins, but that they abandon him. Oh, because
I like that. That's a good twist.
Well, because man meets a guy called Age, and everyone apart from covetousness, greed, abandons him, because that is apparently the sin of old men.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So is this just he's grown out of his wild youth?
Yeah.
Or is it that they're looking at him thinking, well, it's not worth it anymore, is it? I mean, he's no fun. He's just old.
It's kind of both, isn't it? Because, if you see them as symbolic, he's grown out of his youth. And if you see them as real people, which they kind of are as well, it's like he's no fun. And that's the kind of the nice sort of double meaning you can get out of everything in this play.
And presumably they stay the same age because they live forever.
Oh yeah, they just carry on to the next one. Just in case his audience didn't get the point, Envy asks, but where hath covetousness been many a day? And Sensuality said, oh, he dwelled with a priest, as I heard say, for he loveth well men of the church, and they him also. And lawyers also, where they may tend thereto, will follow his counsel. So that's most of the audience then.
I was just thinking that, yes. Yeah, I can imagine Morton sitting there stony-faced at this point.
Well, if we're to believe the opening of Utopia, Morton actually rather liked kind of people being quite forthright, but everyone else maybe looked at him to see, are we allowed to laugh at that line? So, old and weary, man finally repents, and suddenly all the virtues come on, led by reason, to instruct him on how to lead a better life. As there weren't normally that many actors, I imagine these are all the vices having changed their clothes. And in the end, reason reassures man, greater reward thou shalt therefore win, that he never in his life did sin. And the whole thing ends with a song.
This sounds like Lord Make Me Good But Not Yet, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is a classic medieval morality play. It was only going to end one way. Yeah. But at the same time, he gets to live a really dissolute life. And so Medwall knows how to walk the path between piety and entertainment, which, Morton was a pretty worldly archbishop. Can see
he'd seen a thing or two.
Yeah. But if this play is a little bit daring to compare to what came before, it's nothing compared to his other surviving work, Fulgens and Lucrece.
Right, this is the one I seem to remember us mentioning in the very first episode, but that was it. I knew the name.
Well, I remember Michelle was surprised to discover that in given a choice between a noble and a commoner, the central character chose a commoner.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I deliberately set her up for that one.
So back in 1481, when Medwall was at Cambridge, William Caxton published a book with the catchy title of Here followeth the argument of the declamation which laboureth to show wherein honour should rest.
Did it have a short form or?
It's a translation of... Okay, Umberto, I don't want to let you down. Giovane Buonacorso da Montemagno. This is his Latin work, De Nobilitate, of nobility.
Yeah.
This is a literary debate between two ancient Romy. Romy.
It's amazing. As soon as you switch the microphone off, ability to talk just goes out the window.
Oh, so careful with the Italian that English deserted me. Yes. This is a literary debate between two ancient Roman worthies, the immoral nobleman, Publius Cornelius, and the hard-working new man, so not so much a commoner as a new man, a novus homo, Gaius Flaminius. Both competing...
I wonder if he was thinking, because there were new men around at this time as well.
Oh, yes. Well,
right, okay.
And these two are both competing before the Senate for the hand of Lucretia, the daughter of a Roman senator. And the question at stake, the reason that they will be given to her is which of them is the more noble. And this was elegantly political. It was probably never intended for performance. It was more, again, of a philosophical dialogue. Because, of course, the idea of the new man, again, is something that was a little more prominent in Italy in the 1420s when he was writing this, but is coming over to England. And it's pretty clear in the text that the honest, if more lowly Gaius is the right choice. But Buonaccorso's work leaves it to the Senate to decide and never actually gives the verdict, implying that the reader will just make up their own mind.
Right.
Which sidesteps any controversy that would have come for him actually saying, no, this man is more noble than a nobleman.
Yes, that's clever. Mine is a bit like all the court cases we read at this time. You're just getting into them and you think, what did they get off or not? Yeah. It never says.
And the English translation that came out in 1481 was done by none other than Sir John Tiptoft.
Oh.
In his Renaissance humanist scholar phase, more than his impaling most hated man in England phase.
Yes. I mean, you had to admire the scope of this man, didn't you?
Anyway, it clearly made enough of an impact on Medwall for him to want to adapt it for his own use. But Buonaccorso was writing in 1420s Italy, and Medwall wanted something that would fit the intellectual energy and daring of Morton's household. As I said, Thomas More said that there was a lot of vigorous debate that was encouraged, and of course, these were supposed to be entertaining as well. So Medwall's solution, he's going to introduce some new characters of his own and shake things up a bit. So, Fulgens and Lucrece, probably not Medwall's title, begins as it means to go on. An apparently random member of the audience, just called A in the script, the letter A, bursts into the playing area and talks back to the audience. This is the opening of the play. For God's will, what mean ye, sirs, to stand so still? Have you not eaten in your fill and played no thing for it? I wis, sirs, and thus I dare say, he that shall for the shot pay, vouchsafe that he largely assay such meat as he hath in store. I trow your dishes be not bare, and you not the wine spare. Therefore be merry as ye fare. You are welcome, every one.
This is the drunken audience member who's just staggered up there, and all the cast are thinking, "Oh God, this is going to. How do we get rid of him?"
Here you stand musing, whereabout I cannot tell. Oh, and else some pretty damsel for to dance and spring. Saying, oh, are we going to have a dancing girl?
Will we have to pay her 30 quid?
Yeah, pretty much. He's quickly joined by another serving man called B.
Right, okay.
Who tells him to go back to the others because they're about to see a play.
So that's his friend saying, come back, come on, dragging him back down again. Stop it, you're making a fool of yourself.
So when A excitedly asks, oh, what is it? Bill, he's not called Bill, B. B tells him the entire plot, including that Gaius will win. And A's response is, by my faith, but if it even as ye say, I will advise them to change that conclusion. What? Will they affirm that a churl's son should be more noble than a gentleman born? Nay, beware, for men will thereof have great scorn. It may not be spoken in no manner of case. So you're immediately getting the play criticised that hasn't even started yet.
Right, okay, yeah. Yeah, I like that. That does seem to be quite modern in a way of sort of jiggling up the chronology.
Yeah. Oh, it gets weird. So they argue for a bit over whether play should flatter the guests or speak the truth. B clears A off the playing area just in time for the actual play to start. So in comes Fulgens, who is the old Roman senator. And at this point, the audience probably thinks the play start properly, because Fulgens talks about how difficult it is when everyone wants to marry his wonderful daughter. But in another major change from the original, he's particularly proud of Lucrece not just for her beauty and virtue, but also for her, quote, honest and virtuous counsel of her own mind and clear understanding. So, yeah, Lucrece, when she enters, will be played by a boy, but this lady is not a mere prize to be won. So Cornelius comes in, he's a nobleman. He tries to persuade Fulgens to support his case, and the old man agrees, but then left on his own, Cornelius muses he needs a serving man to advise him how to win Lucrece's love.
Why does he need a serving man?
Well, I think the idea is that he's not very experienced, and he wants someone to kind of take messages, maybe someone who kind of
sort of go
knows,
between, right.
Yeah, knows the world better than he does. And as soon as he goes out, B jumps up from the audience and declares he'd be perfect. A is horrified, saying, "By God, thou wilt destroy the play." But with a cheeky, "Oh, the play that began never till now," B invades the drama to put himself forward as Cornelius's servant, and A follows to offer himself as Gaius's servant. And so these two raucous Tudor serving men have now entered the world of ancient Rome.
Right, and of course they don't know the words. Presumably. I mean, that's the idea.
They sort of do. It's weird. They sort of then become part of the world of the play,
Right.
but not very well.
So that's the point in a film where it morphs from being on stage to being actually in the
plays,
castle or whatever, yeah.
And to be fair, it's already in a kind of ancient Rome where they keep referencing God and Jesus. It's that kind of play. They weren't really big into historical accuracy.
No.
And so this play alternates. When A and B offstage, we have a dignified, heartfelt drama. The relationship between Fulgens and his daughter Lucrece is actually rather lovely, him making it clear that she should like whom you will on God's blessing and mine.
Well, that's a nice change. I mean, usually with fairy stories or folk stories, it's just who can kill the dragon or whatever, isn't it? She's not asked to like him.
No. And she kind of goes back in a little way saying, "Oh, well, I'm so glad that you didn't command me, but therefore, can I have your advice?" So it's this real sense of back and forth. She clearly favours Gaius, not least because Cornelius is going to her father to make a business deal, whereas Gaius is actually directly wooing her. But she's also determined to be entirely fair and to judge who is the most noble. Meanwhile, A and B, and they're probably called this because that is the lawyer's way of referring to unknown people. It's like John Doe or something like that. Provide just a mockery of the whole thing. So B delights in talking about how Cornelius wastes his wealth on extravagant clothes. Again, we've got some de la Pole vibes here. Whilst A lies to Gaius that Lucretia favours his rival, just to make sure that Gaius will employ him. They even both compete for the affections of Lucrece's maid, who has the very Roman name Joan, in a parody version of the main plot.
Oh, it's getting quite operatic now, isn't it?
So B proposes, but Joan is a little more practical girl than her mistress. She wants £20 of land in jointure before she'll consider marriage.
Good girl.
Yeah, quite right. A runs in at this point and is dismayed that B and Joan have been left alone together. But, what have you been up to? But B points out, quote, "Here be too many witnesses for makes any such business," pointing at the audience. Although Joan complains, what you think, if there weren't any witnesses, I would have given in? How dare you?
I want to see this play.
It's really fun. It's nothing like what I was expecting.
No, and when you remember it was performed in front of John Morton. And I think before we got to know these people a bit more, you sort of assume it's going to be very staid and everyone's sitting there and politely clapping at the end or whatever. But no, I can imagine him falling off his seat laughing.
Anyway, in the end, A and B settle it like a Robin Hood play. So they have a singing competition, then they wrestle, and then this bizarre parody version of jousting where, as far as we can tell from the slightly weird stage directions, they have their arms tied by their side, and then they attack each other with sticks held between their legs.
Right, okay, subtle stuff, yep.
Well, however, once they are thoroughly trussed up, Joan reveals that she's actually engaged to someone else, gives them both a thorough beating, and sweeps off, I suspect, to thunderous applause.
Beating was funny, though, in those days, wasn't it? 'Cause I think about poor old Malvolio. I mean, he's a butt of a comic joke, isn't he? But, I mean, they lock him up and beat him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not funny at all.
Oh.
But they seem to think it was.
Anyway, grumpily, A and B remark that everyone must be hungry, so let's have an interval so everyone can eat now. But then, the second half, the play gets even more anarchic.
All right, go.
At the beginning, A and B keep complaining that none of the other characters are turning up for their cue, so they have to keep vamping. And then, in attempting to convey a love message from Cornelius to Lucrece, B manages to get it's so mangled. It's about a sort of a romantic moment where they were walking around and Cornelius cast Lucrece's love bottle at an ash tree to get rid of a bird or something. He gets it so mixed up with the word cast and ash that he suggests that Cornelius once kissed Lucrece's backside, much to Lucrece's annoyance.
Yeah, I can't quite see how that
I'm not going into it in any more detail, or we'd have to put the explicit tag on. A does little better. When he tries to deliver a love message from Gaius, he manages to forget his master's name. And then, when Lucrece asks him his own name, in a moment that's almost Beckett-like, he scratches his head and says, "By this light, I've forgotten." And remember, he doesn't have a name in the script.
Yes. He's probably thinking, well, I know it begins with A. I'm probably, I don't know, Andy, Alfred.
Something like that. And of course, probably he would have been someone known to the court, to the people there. So they're probably all shouting out the actor's real name.
Yes.
But finally, after a break for minstrels and dancing, A and B leave the stage and Lucrece's judgment is arranged. Now, it's important, it is not the Senate this time. It'll be her doing the judgment.
Right.
Hearing arguments from her two lovers like a judge in a courtroom. In fact, the scholar Olga Horn is convinced that in the figure of a wise noblewoman who makes public judgments very fairly, Lucrece is modelled on... who else? Margaret Beaufort.
Oh. I think this is your first use of the R, isn't it?
Yes. Build up to it. But I mean, in fact, when we didn't know what happened at the end of Medwall's life, and we didn't for many years, a lot of people thought he might have gone to work for Margaret Beaufort because it would have seemed an appropriate figure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they start the arguments. Now, Cornelius, unsurprisingly, it's all about his noble parentage. So he says, "Among all the histories of Romans that you read, where find ye any blood of so great nobleness as hath been the Cornelius's, whereof I am bred? And if it so be that I would therein hold my peace, yet all of your chronicles beareth good witness that my progenitors and ancestors have been the chief aid and defence of this noble city." And then later, "Since it is so, then, of convenience, such honour and homage must needs be done to these deeds imagined, that much more reverence to me should be given. I trow you think so, for I am their very image, and reliquy to their flesh and blood, and true inheritance as well of their goods as of their said honour."
So it's not really anything he's done.
Exactly.
It's a don't you know who I am?
You might notice he slips in mentions his financial inheritance there as well. It's not I also think there's a slightly dangerous thing of comparing himself to a relic. Because it kind of it's almost criticising relics a little bit there. That sense of kind of this. Yes, he has the blood of his ancestors, but he has none of the virtue of them. So Gaius, meanwhile, has won honour, and he goes on to he points out, as you just did, that all of Cornelius' arguments are about his ancestors, whereas Gaius has won honour and wealth.
Oh, he's got wealth. He's got wealth as well. Okay.
Yes. Okay. He says, "Nevertheless, I will not you blame, though you speak not of your own deeds at all. And to say the truth, you may not for shame. Your life is so voluptuous and so bestial in following of every lust sensual that I marvel no thing in my mind if you leave your own deeds behind. He weeneth that by his proud countenance of word and deed, with nice array, his great oath, and open maintenance of thefts and murderers every day, and his riotous disportion and play, his sloth, his cowardly and other excess, his mind disposed to all uncleanness, by these things only he shall have nobleness." Of course, most of those are obvious, but maintenance. He's specifically a maintainer of men. So This is Henry VII's.
Yes.
The Henry VII reference, isn't
yes.
it?
No, I hadn't quite twigged that bit, but yes, that wouldn't go down well.
And yes, Gaius has won all of his... I haven't got a direct quote from Gaius because it's very worthy, but not quite as entertaining. He's essentially...
That's the trouble with the winners, isn't it?
Yeah, because essentially he's done all these great deeds for Rome, and he's won his money honestly, and he is kind of competent, and also he's just better at rhetoric than Cornelius.
Well, I suppose I've forgotten the name of the other one now. The nobleman. He's never had to justify himself before, has he?
Exactly. Whereas Gaius is always having to do that.
Yeah, as new men were in Henry's court.
And a lot of people, I'm sure, in Morton's circle.
Yes. Sitting there thinking, yeah, tell me about it.
In the end, it's clear which way Lucrece will decide, because she tells us. It's not we're not left to imagine what she'll decide.
Right.
The two go off.
Is she going to go for A?
And then she says, I'm fully determined with God's grace, so that to Gaius I will condescend. For in this case I do him commend as the more noble man, since he is wise, by meanness his virtue to honour doth arise. And all for that, she adds, I will not despise the blood of Cornelius. I pray you think not so. God forbid that I should note me in that wise, for truly I shall honour them wherever I go, and all are of that like blood also. But unto the blood I will have little respect, where the conditions be sinful and abject.
So I'm impressed with your family, but I don't. Just you're letting them down.
And this is actually, literally B comes on and challenges her about this, and she has to sort of repeat the same thing again and again, kind of essentially saying, no, it's not. Look, it's obviously if you're noble and virtuous, that's the best. But you do it. So it really shows, like, actually, they had to be quite careful about this, even in this company. But then she goes out, and we're left with A and B, and they have the last word, so they marvel at Lucrece's decision. So B says, by my faith, she said, I tell thee true, that she would have him for his virtue and for none other thing. And A says, virtue? What the devil is that? As I can tell, I shrew my cat to mine understanding. B says, by my faith, no more can I. But this she said here openly, all these folk can tell. And then A says to someone in the crowd, how say ye, good woman? Is it your guise to choose all your husbands that wise? By my troth, then I marvel. B says, oh, nay, this is the fair I must go to, that man choose not their wives so in places where I have been. And there's a genuine debate, like, about are we supposed to agree with them? Are we supposed to agree with Lucrece? Or is the whole point, which I'm much more convinced by, that the audience can make up their own mind, that this is not the kind of play where we're supposed to be left with, this is the one thing you should think.
Yeah, as a modern audience, it's obvious, isn't it, which you go with. But, yeah, it makes it much more interesting if you're not told to go with that.
Left to consider it. One thing is sure, though, Medwall is aware that it's a dangerous thing to be saying in his play or suggesting. So he has B issue an apology on behalf of the author. If there be any offence, it is only for lack of cunning. He knew his politics.
They're very good at that, aren't they? All this stepping out and saying, well, it's only because I'm a lousy writer that any complaints... Yeah, any complaints, don't make them to me, because I'm just no good at it, frankly. I'm not sure why I even started. Oh, that sounds like a brilliant play.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun
is it
to read.
Ever staged now?
It is. I think one of the I know that there's certain kind of early drama societies that kind of put things on. I think there's a reading of it on YouTube. I don't think there's a full performance of it on YouTube. But it's because I know that one of the great things they've started doing, which I read in Olga Horner's article, was that in order to understand these plays, they do these courses where you put on the play and then you study it. So you really get a sense of how it actually works, because it's really hard sometimes to tell how these plays work till you see them put on.
Yeah, I think if you were to do it now, maybe, I'm just trying to think maybe you'd go for Boris as the noble.
Yes. Something like that.
Yeah, talk about his classical education. And I'm not sure who you'd go for the other one.
On the 15th of September, 1500, Morton dies.
Yeah.
And things take a turn for Medwall.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. But by January 1501, he's being sued by Thomas Goldstone, the prior of Christchurch, Canterbury, for all of Morton's documents. And I do mean all. Goldstone's asking for all books, registers, evidences, records, escrits, sort of money management, and miniments, ownership deeds, belonging to the said ordinary and spiritual jurisdiction, which Medwall is still refusing to hand over 4 months after Morton's death.
Is this to do with his? Is he an executor?
We don't know, but we know that he must have been, because he had all these documents. By this point, it looks like he was essentially Morton's right-hand man. He was probably his chief secretary. He had all of the documents. Now, these really do belong to the prior of Christchurch when there isn't a living Archbishop of Canterbury, because Archbishop of Canterbury is actually a long-running squabble, because Archbishops of Canterbury tended to live in Lambeth Palace in London.
Yeah.
And yet, unsurprisingly, the people of the church authorities in Canterbury thought that they should have all the documents about, like, income and land ownership and all this kind of thing.
They don't know. They don't understand how this works, do they? You become bishop or archbishop, and you then ignore the place completely. That's how it's been.
I think Goldstone would have said, "Yes, but we're Canterbury."
Yes, it doesn't make any difference.
And we've got a papal bull saying we should have them. Though I think they might have got the papal bull from Alexander, so...
Oh, okay. That doesn't count.
No. Medwall wasn't budging. And you can see it from his point of view. I mean, holding on all to these documents, if he could just hold on to the paperwork until the installation of the next archbishop, he might be able to slip in as the chief notary again.
Yes.
And maybe he would have done, because on the 22nd of January, Thomas Langdon was elected Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, he's the Bishop of Winchester, which includes Southwark in his diocese.
Yeah.
And he was very keen on music. So maybe Langdon would take on a lawyer and playwright who'd been running his predecessor's admin for years, you know? And then 5 days after his election, but before he's installed, Langdon dies of plague. So...
He's a Pope Pius.
Yeah. It's worse than Pope Pius. Doesn't even get to be, like, properly made archbishop.
No. Oh, and plague as well. Oh, dear. I was trying to think why we hadn't done him, and you just answered my question.
So, by the time the new Lord Chancellor, Henry Dean, is also made Archbishop of Canterbury on the 22nd of July, it seems Medwall has missed his chance.
Oh.
Dean issues an order in February, as Lord Chancellor, that Medwall is protected from arrest, suggesting that Prior Goldstone was not messing around. And by June... But Medwall has resigned from his living in Calais. I mean, the record says it was voluntary, but...
Did he jump before he was pushed?
Given that his successor was presented to Prior Goldstone, because this was before Dean could be installed as Archbishop, I suspect he was, as he's done before, making himself scarce. So our last sight of Medwall is in, of all places, Winchelsea.
All right.
Yes, a Sussex seaside town. Where he seems to be the master or warden of the Hospital of the Holy Cross.
Oh, well.
So this was probably another living granted to him by Morton back in the glory days. But if he did establish him himself after his fall, maybe planning to look after his soul by arranging care for lepers and pilgrims, then it was a very short-lived tenure.
Oh.
Because by 15th of September 1501, exactly a year after Morton's death, a new warden is being appointed, as the office is, quote, vacant by the death of Master Henry Medwall.
Oh, not leprosy.
Let's hope not. No, I think that takes a bit longer, to be honest.
Yes, I think it does.
If he was having a lot of meetings with Langdon, maybe plague. So obscure is this end, in fact, that this record of his death wasn't even noticed by Alan H. Nelson, who, remember, is his main biographer, until 2016.
Mind you, I mean, you wouldn't think to look in Winchelsea, would you, necessarily?
It's just sort of, oh, yes, that's an odd place to be.
Yeah.
I suppose it might not be him, but the fact specifically that he's down as Master Henry Medwall, which was used at the time more of someone who had a master's degree, which is a little rarer. It's not, again, like with his birth, it's not certain, but certainly there's no other records of him after 1501.
Well, quite a lot of people retired to the south coast, don't they?
Yes. Well, he was only 40 at most.
Oh, dear.
And this could have been it. You know, like so many other playwrights of his time, his name or his plays could just have vanished. You know, we don't know who wrote medieval masterpieces like Mankind or Everyman. Or by contrast, we know that William Cornish devised lavish court entertainments, but we have descriptions, but no scripts.
So that one, we've only got the name.
Yes.
Well, and the music.
Yeah, and the music. So we've still got some of him, but certainly Henry VII's around. Not sure about Henry VIII. But in 1512, the printer and writer John Rastall decided to do something completely new. He published Fulgens and Lucrece, the first printed English play. And 18 years later, his son William published Nature. This isn't just some sort of record. I mean, the Rastalls were literary publishers, and Rastall himself was a playwright. In fact, he even built the first purpose-built stage we know of in London on his estate in 1524. So this was a statement. these plays are worthy of preservation as well as enjoyment of reading and maybe even performing if you've built your own stage.
And if he knew about these things, he was probably choosing the best of the bunch as well. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
But then again, there's the question of, considering how careful Medwall with his papers, clearly, I mean,
Yes.
How did Rastall get hold of these plays? Well, John Rastall's brother-in-law just happened to be one Thomas More.
Oh.
So, in one account of More's early life, it's mentioned that as a young man, he wasn't just living in Morton's household as a page, he would regularly take part in the interludes performed. So, although there's no direct evidence, it's extremely tempting to think that a young More might have acted in these plays. And recognised that they were particularly good, and maybe kept a copy of them.
I wonder which part he'd have played.
Well, yeah!
A or B or something.
This is the thing, a lot of people think B, but it's probably because it's just one of the best parts.
Yes. Oh, that's worth remembering when we do Thomas More.
That at one point he may well have played a game where he had his arms and legs tied and tried to joust someone with a stick between his legs. But, you know, even if it wasn't More himself, there's close links between the Rastalls and Morton's circle. And the Rastalls, I think Rastells, they are people you're glad to know because they end up being linked to the next generation of playwrights who then link to the next generation. And essentially it goes right the way through to the famous ones from these people.
I've come across the name before. I can't remember the situation. But
after his death, Medwall's legacy quickly faded. By 1559, a book on important Britons gives him a paragraph, but it credits him with only one surviving play, Nature. So Fulgens and Lucrece, already gone. And as medieval drama fell out of fashion, so Medwall was seen as a minor dramatist, whose one play, A Morality, wasn't really worth talking about. There's some scholar at some point who says, oh yes, he put forward a play for Henry VIII, but it was so dull that no one cared about it. Which, A, the scholar clearly made that story up, and B, the court of Henry VIII tended to take on new material, and Medwall was a bit busy being dead by that point.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
and so Nature survives. We have copies of it, like all through to the modern day, but people aren't really talking about it. And then, in 1919, just as medieval drama's being recessed, a single copy of Fulgens and Lucrece was found.
Oh, where was it found? Well, not somewhere like St Leonard's or somewhere else on the south coast.
It's in some. I forget. I didn't note it down. It's in someone's archive. It's one of those things where at some point someone's bound together multiple plays into one book and then put it in a large library.
Yes, with a really dull title that nobody likes to look at.
Honestly, one day we are going to find Shakespeare's Cardinal in one of these libraries. I just know it. And this begins his rehabilitation. Still, for an old playwright.
Well, say rehabilitation.
I know. He's by comparison.
Yes.
Okay. He's mentioned in the books, and it's taking a bit of time for his appreciation to come. I mean, Shakespeare's. But then again, bear in mind that Shakespeare's first set of collected plays, the first folio, is published in 1623. Henry Medwall's collected plays, first published, 1980. So give him a chance.
Yes.
I mean, he's never going to be as famous as Shakespeare, and that is probably fair.
Yeah.
But I just like to imagine him in 1501, probably dying in the very hospital he'd once been warden of. He's got no family, except for his wild brother, somewhere in Calais maybe. No children. His patron's dead, and the new church regime has forgotten him. I mean, did he think he'd have any legacy at all?
Well, and now today... Yes. It's his lucky day.
525 years later. We're hearing some words he scribbled down to make Morton's guests laugh on a snowy evening.
Yeah. And they still work.
Yeah. And I will say that I only had to change, when I was reading them, like one or two words that are really not used anymore to make them make sense. Mostly it's just the spelling that makes it confusing. So if someone does a modern spelling edition, please... and they might become even more popular.
Yes, it's nothing makes your heart sink more than just opening a book and thinking, oh, I've got to plough through working out what they mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is Henry Medwall. Was that a surprise?
I'm surprised at how much I couldn't say how much you managed to find out about him, but if that is the right family members you've slotted all together, I mean, it might be all of those people might be completely unknown to each other. Emma
It is true.
and John and
It is all relying on the statement that everyone seems to be making that Medwall was an uncommon name in Southwark in this period, because if it wasn't, then...
Yeah, we had the opposite problem with Caxton, because it seemed in Norfolk that every other person was called Caxton.
Yeah,
That was great. Yeah, the plays... I mean, sometimes you listen to the synopsis of a medieval play and think, yeah, all right, okay. But, yeah, I'd like to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, you're into Amdram. Why don't you have that be your next one?
Yeah, we'll see if they agree. So hear me out. I know we normally do modern musicals, but hear me out. So for our main episodes, we end with Shakespeare quotes, but I thought it would be nice this time to end with one last quote from Medwall. And these are the last lines of Fulgens and Lucrece. So possibly, if that is the later play, which seems likely, the last lines we have that he ever wrote. B apologises if the play has caused offence, I said earlier, and then asks one more thing on Medwall's behalf. And glad would he be in right fain that some man of stable brain would take on him the labour and pain this matter to amend. And so he willed me for to say, and that done, all of this play, shortly here we make an end. Goodbye.
Goodbye.